I'm here with Kurt Peterson. Kurt, you're a pretty good golfer.
All right.
He's a golf addict, but you always want to be better, right?
Yes.
So one of the things we've noticed in Kurt's swing is sometimes he doesn't manage the position of the club that great on takeaway.
Right.
And as a result of that, there can be a little too much flipping.
Correct.
Coming through impact, which is a left
and further left.
further
Yes.
left
Right.
miss. Okay, so your miss on the course tends to be overdrawing it.
Yes.
So you manage it. You got a single-digit handicap, but you can like to get better.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's take a look at a couple of Kurt's swings, and you can see what's happening, and then we'll go through some drills that are going to help him see if he can make that a little better. So let's look at one of these shots that you hit during a warm-up session. Not a bad ball flight. I mean, you are a single handicap
Right.
golfer. Got a lot of good things going in your swing, but your miss tends to be what? Left. Okay.
Left.
So you see the face to the path is a little strong. Now, so if we look at the video here of your swing, let's go ahead and check a couple things out here. So on your takeaway, this club is coming just a little under that plane.
Right.
And look how now it comes up kind of steep and very high through the transition. So if we look at your shaft right here, you see it's pointed a little inside the ball. Okay, so what you do is you now bring your hips in to the ball to basically help bring the club head back down to the address plane.
Right.
Right, so you can see it's not a ton, but it's just a little inside right there.
Right.
It comes up around transition is now pretty high and pretty steep. So now bring the hips in. So if we look at the butt line right here, you can see your hips have come into the ball, and that's your shallowing or bringing it down mechanisms. Bring the hips in, right? So now let's look on the face-on perspective and see what that does. So this blue dot right here on the face-on is your height of your shoulders at address, and the yellow shows where they are through the swing. So as you come into the ball, your shoulders are higher. Yep. So for you to hit the ball, now this is because your hips are coming in.
Right.
Because you've got to get the club head back down to the ball, right? So now your shoulders are higher, so to hit the ball, look at what your right wrist does. Right here on the face-on view. It's flexing.
Right.
And that motion can tend to give you the strong face, because as you're flexing that right wrist, your face to path number can get a little strong, and now you're overdrawing the ball, and there can be your miss on the course.
Right.
And it really has to do with this motion right here on your takeaway. You're getting that club, you're just never able to get it back down onto the address plane without bringing those hips in. You're basically standing up. So we're going to focus on this motion right here, trying to see if we can get this left hand a little more close to the body and the club head a little farther away from the body on the takeaway, and see if we can't, if then your posture will just immediately fix itself. So let's have you in slow motion. Just do your takeaway motion in slow motion, where basically where your club is going to. Okay, just go a little. Okay, and just a little faster. Okay, so just stop right here. What I want you to notice is your takeaway is right here.
Right.
And a lot of golf instruction that's a good spot. We're going to see what happens if we can get your takeaway more to right here.
Okay.
So if we look at your swing, the address plane we're going to talk about is like this angle of the shaft that we've got at setup. And when you do this motion, see that comes under?
Yep.
And so to exaggerate, what happens is it comes up now steep, it stays steep, and then you bring your hips in to get that back to the ball. So as opposed to trying to get the club around you like this, we're going to see if we can't get that club started right there.
Okay.
Okay? That's what we're going to move towards.
All right.
Okay. All right. So very simple, without a club here. The way that we're going to do this, we're going to focus on your right arm motion. So just, you're pointing the camera here. So if you have your right arm kind of bent like this at 90 degrees, okay, and you just keep the elbow in and externally rotate it. Now, you should feel on your shoulder blade, there's a muscle called your infraspinatus. Now look at your elbow. It stays in the body.
Right.
So as you do this upper arm rotation, the elbow stays, it actually moves a little towards your belly.
Right.
You feel that?
Yep.
That's a simple contraction.
Right.
Okay, now I want you to go put your arm really straight and try to do that same thing. It doesn't work.
Right, right.
So this is a really interesting key on your posture at setup. The right upper arm, if we want, which all the good golfers do an external rotation of your right upper arm. Notice how easy it is to do an external rotation of your upper arm when your elbow is bent. Put your arm straight and it's like, it doesn't work. Now feel in your shoulder, when you straighten your arm, see your humerus comes out and then your infraspinatus,
Right.
which is the name of the muscle that does this motion, it doesn't work. But you have your arm bent, now your infraspinatus can do that.
Right.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, so now here's the second key. Okay, obviously at setup, we've got to be able to get the right hand onto the club, but we've just discovered I need my right elbow bent if I'm going to be able to do this motion right here.
Right.
Okay, so what I have to do is make sure the right side of my body is short enough. Okay, so there's it's called your internal oblique. So put your hand right here, kind of like the outside of your right thigh, and just go down and feel how there's a muscle in your trunk that scrunches your right side down, but your spine is still straight. Feel that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's your right internal oblique. Now I've got my arm. Now do this motion. There's your takeaway. Now watch this, okay? So stand over here. So if I allow this crunch right here, and I do this arm, boom, and I rotate, look where the shaft is.
Aha.
Now, if my arm is straight, and I'm trying to get it back here, look where the shaft is. If I do this with a bent arm, boom, there's the shaft. Okay, let's have you try that.
Okay.
So right arm only. So we basically, at setup, you're going to feel that right side with your oblique, okay? Now we're going to do that infraspinatus turn, and look where the shaft is. So at this point where it's parallel to the ground, let's have the shaft point towards the target line extended, not on your feet. So this elbow stays in because we just figured out how you can rotate your upper arm, right? So your right infraspinatus, like that.
Yep.
Now from here, you turn and lift. Okay, so from a face-on perspective, what does this take us to? It's basically your right hand gets to the outside of your right leg and your elbow is still tied into your body. Now just put your left hand on the club, and there's your takeaway. Easy. Look where that look where that club hit. It's much higher than relative to the rest plane than when you're there.
Yeah.
See that difference?
Yeah.
So the two keys on my posture and setup, I've crunched. Now I've got my elbow more bent so I can eat. I could just do this. Basically takes my hand to the outside of my leg. My left hand's on there, and then from there, turn and lift. Think you can do that?
I think so.
All right, so let's try a real slow shot here. Actually, let's do it without a ball because everybody has a challenge when there's a ball there. So just go right there. Okay, now just a little turn, like a 60-yard shot from there. And you should feel maybe a little lower to the ground.
Yep.
Feel that? Okay, so let's do an actual shot here. Same thing, like a 60, 70 yarder, not trying to kill it.
About 80.
Yeah, look at your face angle wasn't like before, it was like 7 degrees. All right, so here we are. Let's look at what's happening now after we just did that drill. So if we look at this takeaway, we can see that shaft is now pointed more towards the target. It's not like down your toe line, it's pointed towards the target. And so that club shallows a lot better than what you had before because this takeaway is better. So notice right here, your right elbow, something that we like to see here is I can see your left arm because your right elbow is bent at address, okay? And you're trying to do this rotation of the right upper arm, and that brings the hand outside the arm to the outside of the leg, boom, there's your takeaway. So if we draw this line right here of your shaft at address, what we're seeing is a motion that club head comes right up that shaft instead of going under the shaft at the point where your hand reaches the outside of your leg.
Right.
So mission accomplished right there. Now we're going to talk a little bit about your lead leg that's going to help your hip rotation and maintain that posture just a little better. But that takeaway much better than where you were before. All right, so that takeaway motion's a little better, but we still saw a little loss of the hip posture.
Right.
Okay. So now we've got the arm motion going a little better. I want to focus a little more on some leg motion.
Okay.
Okay. And what I saw was your left knee was coming out towards the target line. That tends to push the right hip back, which means on the forward swing, the right hip tends to come in. So you can see there's now going to be a loss of posture if that's my sequence.
Right.
Okay. We want this knee to rotate under the body and this knee to come under the midpoint of your body, not go out towards the target line. Okay? So I'm going to get a little chair here. And I'm going to have you sit down. All right. Pretend you're driving a car here.
Okay.
A fancy little sports car. Okay. So anybody should be able to do this. It's pretty simple. Your left leg, or just rotate your knee in. Okay, that's pretty easy. Okay, and then rotate your knee this way. Now notice his pelvis doesn't move, right? So this is a leg rotation.
Right.
Now notice, okay, we basically have whenever there's a rotation, there's an axis. So let's draw an imaginary line between your hip and when you go to the right, like here, the inside of your right heel. And now the opposite, the outside of your, left heel. Okay, the inside of your left heel, the outside of your left heel. There's the leg motion that we want. And notice your pelvis, this is a leg rotation. So what we've talked about in your takeaway, basically we've got two things. We want this upper arm to be rotating this way. And we're going to start this left knee to be coming under your body. Those are our two rotations to the right that we're going to do.
Right.
Okay. Now we're going to, then in the transition, we'll obviously move left, and then both knees are going to turn that way.
Got it.
So what we're going to try to get Kurt to do is, instead of pushing his pelvis with his feet, we're going to let the leg rotation more be the primary focus, and the pelvis will passively respond as opposed to trying to actively get the pelvis into position. It's my pelvis moves, I've moved my knee, transition, move the knees. Yeah, my pelvis rotates, but I'm going to focus on the leg rotation, not pushing the pelvis.
Right.
With leg extension. We're going to do leg rotations. Now, technically, there's a muscle called your gracilis. You can stand up now. Let's try to do that motion while you're standing without the chair here. Okay. So now that you've got a little weight on your body, face on here, pretty good. A little weight on your body. Feel this left knee come in. Now your pelvis rotated to the right, but is more a secondary, or as a response to the knee coming under there. Now sit down and rotate the knees, and look at that posture.
Right.
So the midpoint of your shoulders isn't coming up.
Right.
So now, if we can get this arm, so we had a posture that we were lower, and the arm here, and then the left knee is going to come under instead of out. Boom. You're not standing up.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay, so do a couple just
swings, right?
That ball, kind of go slow here, and do it, kind of stop at the end to take away. Okay, and then lift. Boom. Okay, now let's go really slow motion here.
Okay.
So let's stop at the end to take away and do a little check. So we got the arm rotation. Okay, so let's bring it back down to just the outside of the leg, right? So let's just stop when your right hand gets to the outside of your right leg. Boom. So we've got this instead of under here.
Right.
Right. Now now your knee, let your knee, so his left knee can just come under him. Now just sit down. Now rotate the knees. Boom. And look where your left hip is.
Yeah.
It's back.
Yeah.
So your left hip is back, it means you're not standing up.
up.
Now, let's do that again and just stop kind of at impact.
Okay.
when you do this, and we'll look at it from a face-on perspective here. So just nice takeaway. Okay, now stop at impact. Okay, hit the ground. Now look at your right wrist position here. Now stand up a little bit and hit the ground. What does your right wrist have to be? Like that.
Yeah.
Which, and this is that rotate. You
Yep.
just see, look at the face.
Yeah.
That rotates the face.
Right.
So by you maintaining your posture, you're lower to the ground.
Right.
Which means your wrist,
Can keep that angle and.
so your face isn't
Yep.
over rotating.
Right.
And you can still hit the ground. Okay,
Yep.
so do that again in slow motion. And just get to the impact and feel those knees. Boom, boom. Right there. Whoa, looks like a minus handicap.
That'd be good,
not
yeah.
Or a plus handicap, I should say.
That'd be good.
It looks like a lot better. All right, let's just have you hit a couple, then we'll look at
that
these
goes?
on
Okay.
video. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at this swing. We focused on some better left knee rotation here. So your takeaway?
Mm-hmm. Better?
Better, through the hands. Now look at the club head. I like to see it come up basically through the shoulder like that. That's nice. Now, see your right hip. Look at your left knee here. It's not coming out towards the ball. It's coming under your body.
Right.
So one way to visualize this, feel the logo on your shirt or your heart comes towards your right big toe, not diving towards your heel, towards your right big toe.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And now, if we look at your posture, your head, I mean, that's better. Okay,
Better.
It's not perfect, but that's better. And we can see your right wrist, you've still got some hinge, right, of the right wrist, or some extension here of this right wrist as you're coming into impact. So as you get used to this, you don't have to like flip it, and you'll get better face to pass. So this posture here and that club position, that's a lot better. Now let's compare this to one of your first swings. Go down to like swing number 2 here. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see the big difference in
Yeah.
terms of where the
Yep.
club head is at. And look at your left knee over here on the right. See, your left knee is coming
Yep.
out towards the line. And look at your right hip. That now throws your right hip behind you. So now your right hip has to come, and see how that just throws your head up right there. So now, if we can get the right arm rotation, the club head position is not under the plane, not behind the hands, in front of the hands. And see, you're bringing your club head more by your elbow coming up, the club head more towards your shoulder, and your knee here is not so much towards the ball, it's under the body.
Yeah.
Now your head motion right there compared to your head motion, see your head is backing up and coming up more.
Yeah.
So this is going to give you, as you practice this more, your right wrist will be more stable through impact, and you'll develop better.
It's interesting because I've worked so hard. I can't get rid of that early extension, and that if you're in the wrong position.
Well, if your leg is doing the wrong thing.
Exactly. It's.
So I think what you're trying to do, this is a case of trying to actively rotate the pelvis with your ground force, and this is a case where the pelvis is rotating because your legs are rotating. So it's just a different mindset of let the left knee come under you. Don't try to push the pelvis with the ground directly. Let the knee come under you.
Okay.
And now your posture through impact is, in just like 3 or 4 swings, that's much better than what it was. So nice job.
Yeah, that's a big difference. I want to see more like that.
Yep.